How is it going? Thank you for tuning in this video. Today I'm here with the New Japan Pro Wrestling Battle in the Valley 2024 live review. The show took place this past Saturday on January the 13th, which was actually the day after my birthday. So attending this event was kind of a birthday present to myself because honestly, I was not planning on attending this event. When tickets went on sale, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait it out because I'm perfectly okay with missing this event. I'm going to see who's on the card. This is pretty much a waiting game for me. And last week, they finally announced, the card for the show. And obviously they announced Okada versus Ospreay as the main event. And then that in itself sold me. And then the rest of the card I thought was very strong. John Moxley being on the show as well. I thought it was strong for me to definitely want to go to it. So right then and there, I bought my tickets, and so did a lot of other people because I was following wrestling tickets on Twitter and seeing how the sales were for this event. And it seems like 40%, at least, bought the tickets, the week of the show. So New Japan, hope you learned a lesson. You got to announce names and, a big match or two for these events. You just can't rely on your brand to sell tickets anymore in the United States. You got to have big names and a big match, to sell tickets. And obviously you might have learned a lesson because you've already announced 2 big matches for your Chicago show coming up in April. So like I said, I wasn't planning on going to the show, but once they announced Okada and Ospreay, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be there. And, they sold me the tickets. So, and I'm glad I went. I had a great time overall. So without wasting more time, let's go ahead and jump right into things. Before we jump into the show, let's go ahead and show you guys the one thing I did get at the show, which I always get at least one thing, which is the none other than the event shirt, which this year, they actually mixed it up. As you see right here, you have the Battle in the Valley logo, kind of like a corner pocket, style shirt in the front. And then on the back, you have more of a pinkish color. And, of course, you have the 3 logos on the back of the New Japan logo. You have the Strong logo and the IWGP logo. Of course, of the date, January 13th, 2024, New Japan Pro Wrestling, San Jose Civic and San Jose, California. So, yeah, I like this one a lot. I'm glad that it changed up because obviously, they usually have the formatted regular ones like this. This is last year's one where it has, the Battle of the Valley logo like that, big on the front, and then, same thing in the back, but, they had it in green. So I'm actually kind of glad they changed it up and put kind of a corner logo instead of a big, front logo, and they put a different color on the text in the back as well. Instead of just the green, like, instead of that green, they put pink and that. So still a great looking shirt. New Japan always keeps simple with their event shirts, and I love them simple like this, so can't go wrong with that. So after waiting in line for an hour to get that, because New Japan only has one merch line, and of course that's the first place everyone goes as soon as they get in is a merch line. So it's just an unbearingly long line, and I'm glad I got there pretty much as soon as the door opens because I got to my seat literally like 10 minutes before the main show started. So after that, went to our seats, which were absolutely tremendous view. The San Jose Civic Center is one of those places where honestly, it's such a great venue for wrestling because there's not a bad seat in that place. You can sit literally anywhere and you will have a great view no matter what. And I absolutely love the seats we had. This is the first time I had the upper section one. I usually got the ones that were kind of like the riser seats on the ground. The view was amazing, overlook of everything, and it was just picture perfect. So I was very happy and pleased with the seats I got. For any more New Japan shows or any wrestling shows in general being held at the Civic, I might get, elevated seats, upper section just for the view alone, because like I said, everything is just a perfect view of everything. So I might be getting those, but yeah, it was a great view, and I was very happy with them. And, as soon as we were sat, we pretty much got the final few minutes of the women's kickoff match that was on the show. There were 2 kickoff matches that happened before the show, but I didn't really care to see them because they're just people from the New Japan Academy, and no disrespect to them, but I just don't have any interest in them. So the women's match was wrapping up, and I'm not too familiar with their names, but I know Stephanie something. I'm not too familiar with her last name. She ended up getting the victory in the match, and the people were actually pretty hyped. People were actually chanting for her, and were in her corner. So not sure on the overall match went, but the final few minutes were good, and I liked it. I was into it, and like I said, shouldn't have been the victory. And then of course going to the main show, which was a 9-match card. I absolutely love how New Japan runs down the match card in order in the video package of the opening show. It gets everybody absolutely hyped up, and everyone always popping for the names they want to see the most. It's always a good time to see that card run down, just to get everyone excited, to see the card and the match is happening. But yeah, a great card in store. Of course, the opening match was a 6-man tag team match. We had Shota, Umino, Fred Rosser, and Jacob Fatu taking on Team Filthy, Tom Lawler, and the West Coast Wrecking Crew. This was a good opener. The crowd was red hot for it, especially for Jacob Fatu, man. This guy was mildly over, which fun fact, I actually went to high school with his brother, Journey Fatu. So he actually does wrestle locally around where I live. He actually is a wrestler as well, but obviously he's not as big as a name as Jacob Fatu is. But yeah, just a little fun fact there I thought I'd throw in. But he was mildly over. The crowd was super excited to see him, and he was, when he got that hot tag, everyone went absolutely nuts for him. So he was definitely you know, the star of the match, if you ask me. The story of it, basically, of the match was Tom Lawler, the dissension of him and the West Coast Wrecking Crew. You know, Fred Rosser putting his hand out, and the West Coast Wrecking Crew just, you know, absolutely refusing for him to do it. And then at one point, you know, when the match went to the outside and everyone was just brawling, you know, Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler for a good while while there's a match while the match is going on, they were just beating the shit out of each other at ringside, which that was hilarious. But Jacob Fatu had a huge dive to the outside. Everyone looked good. Back in the ring, Umino was back in the ring with Isaac Royce. They went out for a good little while. At one point, Umino got a triple power bomb from Team Filthy for a near fall right there, but the ring cleared out. Umino ended up hitting the Death Rider on Royce Isaacs for the 1-2-3, getting the win for his team. So it was a good opening match. The crowd was red hot into it, and it was very fun. And then post-match, we had Tom Lawler, of course, arguing with, you know, the West Coast Wrecking Crew, you know, just arguing back and forth with Rosser extending his hand out. Lawler walks up to Rosser, slaps him, and then shakes his hand. So I do think we might get Tom Lawler and Fred Rosser versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew at some point in the future. I think that'd be a fun tag team match. I'm not sure if Team Filthy is finally ending. I mean, they've been going on for years now, so they kind of are long overdue, if you ask me, for a split. So I don't know. It's a little interesting to see where they'll go with that, but that was the story with Team Filthy. But then afterwards, as Shota Umino was kind of going around celebrating with the fans, he gets just knocked out of nowhere, and everyone's like, ooh, what's going on? Of course, someone with a mask jumps the guardrail, starts beating him down, and they take their mask off, and I see it, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I had an immediate reaction to the point where my girlfriend Audrey was next to me. She's like, what? And I'm like, no, it can't be. Like, it was just like, to me, it was like, no. Is it? No. And it was Jack Perry. Jungle Boy Jack Perry makes his first appearance since All In, since everything was CM Punk, at New Japan, of all places. So I was actually, like, stunned. I couldn't believe it. And I, like, had to turn to her, like, it's Jack Perry, because, you know, she knows everything that went on with him and CM Punk and everything. She kind of manifested it, because she joked earlier in that day that, you know, him and CM Punk were together, because obviously at the Battle Valley last year, CM Punk was there to watch, you know, Mercedes Moné's debut. And she was joking that what if, you know, he's there and then, you know, Jack Perry's there to fight him or whatever. So in a way, she kind of manifested that. So it was kind of funny that he ended up being there. But yeah, Jack Perry, New Japan Pro Wrestling, he had an armband that he put on that said Scapegoat. He ended up ripping up his AEW contract. I'm not really too sure where they go with him. I don't know if he's just going to be in New Japan going forward, or maybe they're going to implement that into AEW and acknowledge that with him and everything. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but it was definitely interesting. It definitely got a huge reaction. It definitely got a huge reaction on me, because I was legitimately like, what? Like, I was just very flabbergasted by it. So Jack Perry officially in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's going to be interesting. So we'll see where that goes. Following that, we had Rocky Romero and Soberano Jr. taking on Volador Jr. and Mascara Dorada. This was a fun, high-flying, fast-paced match here. You know, story of the match was Rocky was refusing to face Volador Jr. Soberano Jr. pretty much was Rocky's cheerleader the entire time. He was cheering him for everything, rooting him on for everything. And him and Dorada had a pretty good exchange. Very fast-paced, like I said. You know, your typical Lucha Libre match, if you ask me. However, there were times where it was a little bit too quick. Like, there's one spot where Volador Jr. did like a pop-up to Mascara Dorada to give, I think, Soberano Jr. Her Karana, and he did it so quickly and so fast that, like, Dorada almost actually flew over. Actually, it might have been Rocky Romero he was into, but whoever it was, he actually almost missed it because he almost flew over him. So it was a little too quick and a little too fast at some moments for some people to keep up. But nonetheless, like I said, your typical Lucha Libre to the outside, a lot of splashes, you know, stuff like that. And made it for a fun match. Finish came where, you know, Rocky Romero and Volador Jr. were just trading blows back and forth, and got to the point where they were both hitting the ropes. And Volador Jr. hits a Canadian Destroyer out of nowhere on Rocky Romero for a 1-2-3 and gets the win for him and Mascara Dorada. So, like I said, it was a fun, fast-paced Lucha Libre style match. Nothing to complain about. And next to that, we had the brand new and inaugural IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion David Finlay taking on TJP. Going into the show, honestly, this is the match I was least looking forward to. This is a match I was like, I don't care for whatsoever. But it was a fun match. It was very good, you know, right from the get-go. TJP attacks David Finlay during his entrance, kicks him off the apron, not even allowing him to make his entrance into the ring, and they brawl all around ringside for a good little few minutes before it goes back in the ring. And TJP had a really good showing here, man. I've always thought TJP has been good. You know, I've never really cared for him. I've never been a fan for him, but, you know, the crowd was mildly behind TJP. Everyone was, you know, popping for everything he was doing to David Finlay, because everybody hated David Finlay that much that TJP seemed like the most over guy in the entire show, or at least to this point. So TJP was mildly over. Everything was getting a huge ovation. He was doing. There's a spot where he was doing corner boots and the crowd was chanting, you know, for him to do it again. Then he did it one more time just to please the crowd. TJP was mildly over. And, you know, there was obviously some points in the match where David Finlay had the upper hand. Crowd was booing the shit out of him. You know, he was getting some offense in, but TJP fought back. Got a very close near fall at one point. You know, David Finlay tried to hit him with a shillelagh, but as the referee was taking it away, TJP hit him with a mist and got a very, very, very close near fall on him. So the crowd was very into that near fall. I actually believed in myself that he might have pulled it off, but obviously he didn't there. And then you know, the match, like I said, was very good. It was very enjoyable. David Finlay ended up getting the victory, ended up hitting the overdrive on TJP for the win. So David Finlay wins. Absolutely blew my expectations away. Like I said, it was a match I absolutely least cared for, and ended up being very enjoyable. Preceding that, we had the strong openweight tag team championships being defended. El Phantasmo and Hikuleo defending against Clark Connors and Alex Cotland of Bullet Club War Dogs. As Hikuleo and El Phantasmo making their entrance, which, by the way, during their entrance, they strapped their tag team titles around some kid to take pictures with. That kid got loved by, like, all the wrestlers in the show, man. He was loved by all of them. That kid was taking pictures of all of them. It was... I'm pretty sure he had a great time. He'll definitely have a time he'll remember for the rest of his life. So I just thought that was a cool thing of, like, all the wrestlers to do for that one kid. But after that, you know, during the rest of their entrance, they were attacked by Cotland and Connors, and they were just going after them, taking them out to the point where they actually took out El Phantasmo. They worked on Hikuleo for a good little while till God fought back, and then, you know, got the upper hand for a good little while. Worked over, I think it was Cotland. Hikuleo was tied up for the choke slam before Connors came in with the chop block to the leg, and then at that point, Cotland and Connors pretty much worked on Hikuleo's leg throughout the entire match. Wrap around the post, taking El Phantasmo out any chance he pretty much got back up on the apron and just pretty much knocked him back down and wouldn't let him tag in at all during the match. Hitting their tag team finish, ended up hitting the superplex spear, which is actually a pretty sick move if you ask me, for a great near fall till El Phantasmo, you know, broke it up. And then obviously towards the end of it, you know, God got the upper hand. You know, Hikuleo was able to recover from his leg injury, and El Phantasmo and Hikuleo were able to hit the Super Thunder Kick 86 on Alex Cotland to get the win and retain the strong openweight tag team titles. So it was a good match, you know, nothing really anything to brag about, but nothing bad at all. So it was just, you know, very average. Following that, we had the Strong Women's Championship, Giulia defending against Trish Adora. I'll be completely honest, going into this match, I have not seen anything from either woman. I know Giulia obviously is a name I've heard a lot of since last summer. I know that she's expected to potentially sign with WWE, you know, going into the spring. So she's definitely a name to look out for. But I've heard nothing but great things about her since, you know, like I said, last summer. So she was the person I was excited to see. And Trish Adora, I believe she is a New Japan Academy student. So, you know, I'm not familiar with her whatsoever. Never even heard of her, honestly, till this show. But I will say they went out there and had a pretty solid match. You know, I'll be honest, this was a match I was the least interested in. I was just watching and not really caring. No disrespect to them, because they did put on a good match. They didn't put anything bad on. It's just they were the two I was at least familiar with, so that's why I wasn't that interested in it. But it was good, you know, right from the get-go. Giulia tried to go for a handshake, or she offered a handshake, but tried to trick Trish Adora into, like, I believe maybe a suplex or something. I'm not too sure, but Trish Adora was able to get out of it. Crowd was very behind Giulia the entire time, but Trish Adora, I'll say this, she fought and won the crowd over, man. She did some great stuff during the match as well. At one point, Giulia gave her a suplex, and she just no-sold it and ended up giving, or Trish Adora ended up giving Giulia a German suplex following that. And was winning the crowd over, you know, almost got a submission victory at one point where the crowd was really, you know, heavily chanting for Trish Adora. So, yeah, she definitely, like I said, won the crowd over, and I thought it was good back and forth between the two of them. Towards the end of it, you know, it looked like maybe Trish Adora was closing the championship. Giulia was just hitting her with a bunch of stuff, ended up hitting her with the running knee, which Trish kicked out at 1, which got a huge pop. Everyone was popping huge for that. But then Giulia just ended up beating the crap out of her, ended up hitting with a Northern Lights bomb for the 1, 2, 3 to retain the Strong Women's Championship. So like I said, it was a good match. I enjoyed it, and both women definitely, you know, I mean, Giulia was obviously very over, but Trish Adora definitely won the crowd over with this match, and definitely was a good one. And after that match, we actually had a vignette air for none other than Mustafa Ali, who's making his New Japan Wrestling debut at the Chicago show, which is the Windy City Riot, I believe it's called, in April. He did his whole campaign gimmick that he actually was kind of doing towards the end of his WWE run. So now he's obviously carrying that over into New Japan and doing that, and challenged Hiromu Takahashi to a match. So him and Hiromu should be a great match. That should be a match I honestly never even thought of, but I think that'll for sure tear the house down. It's cool to see Ali in New Japan. I think he'll definitely tear it up. I think he'll definitely contribute great to the junior heavyweight division, and I'm excited to see the great things he'll do there. Then back to the action, we had Matt Riddle in a mystery partner taking on Zack Sabre Jr. and Bad Dude Tito. Going into this, I had absolutely no expectations for who the surprise was going to be. I was like, you know what? It's not going to be anyone I'm going to care for, be excited for. It's not going to be a huge name. It's just going to be like a name. I just knowing New Japan, it just wasn't going to be anyone really that worthy, in my opinion, of being a surprise. And no disrespect to him, it wasn't anyone worthy of being surprised, because it was Jeff Cobb, which makes sense. Riddle and Cobb obviously were a tag team in PWG years ago, so it made sense for Cobb to be Riddle's partner. But it's just like, did that really have to be a surprise? Like, even when Cobb came out, like, he got a pop, but it was kind of like after he came out, nobody gave a shit. Like, it was like, oh, okay, it's cool, it's Jeff Cobb, all right. What now? Like, that was a surprise? Like, it was a letdown. So I don't know why they just didn't announce it was gonna be Jeff Cobb to begin with. I don't know why they try to hype it up like it was a surprise for it, but yeah, I just knew it wasn't gonna be anyone that great, or that big, I should say, at least, and it really wasn't. But yeah, it was what it was. But going to the match itself, it was a very good match. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought Riddle and Zack Sabre Jr. had a great exchange. They had a great grapple session. Then once, you know, Tito and Jeff Cobb tagged in, you know, the crowd was just chanting beef, 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 because they were just going there, just swinging towards the fences. They were just clobbering the shit out of each other. I thought it was a great exchange between both of them. And just the difference, the styles of, you know, Riddle and Sabre kind of being more grapple guys than you have the two big guys in Cobb and Tito. I thought their exchanges, you know, going against one another, then once they finally kind of exchanged partners, where it was Riddle and Tito and then Cobb and Sabre, I thought it makes for a lot of fun. So it was a very enjoyable tag team match. Ending came where it was Riddle and Tito. Riddle ended up hitting the knee on Tito and followed up with the Bro Derek and 1, 2, 3. Matt Riddle defeats or pins Bad Dude Tito to defeat him and Zack Sabre Jr. in his New Japan debut, I might add. I forgot to mention that this was Riddle's debut match in New Japan. Obviously, he's challenging Tanahashi for the NJPW World TV title at one of the New Beginning shows coming up next month. So that should be a good one. But yeah, I just don't know why Jeff Cobb, you know, was built to be a surprise. But him and Riddle, they make for a fun tag team. This match was a fine example, if you ask me. So yeah, like I said, really good tag team match. And going into our final title match of the evening, we had the Continental Crown Championship, which of course consists of the AEW Continental Championship, the Strong Openweight Championship, and the ROH World Championship, all being defended simultaneously to make the Continental Crown Championship. Eddie Kingston defending against Gabe Kidd. This was a great match, man. Right from the get-go, before Eddie Kingston gets in the ring, Gabe Kidd attacks Eddie Kingston, and they brawl for like a good 5 minutes around ringside, just chopping each other, hitting each other, anything they could find. They were just being brutal to each other, and they finally carry on the ring, and it is just a chop, chop, chop fest. That's all this match was chop, chop, chop. I mean, you might have gotten a suplex, like a T-bone suplex from Eddie Kingston every now and then. Maybe, you know, a move from Gabe Kidd. But it was like 90% just chop to the chest, chop to the chest, chop to the chest. That's all this match was. And it was great. It was hard hitting, and the crowd was very heavily into it. I was into it. Both their chests were just beat red. It was excellent. It was an excellent fight. And unfortunately, I had a shitty ending where it got to the point where they both, you know, brawled on the outside. They were too busy beating the shit out of each other. And at the 17 count, Eddie Kingston tried to get in the ring, but Gabe took the mic and called him a fucking pussy. And Eddie Kingston continued to fight on the outside, and then that led to the 20 count. So Gabe Kidd and Eddie Kingston ended up getting counted out. So it was what it was. You know, it was a shitty ending to a great match, but what can you do? You know, it happens. Both men are signed to different companies. I'm pretty sure Gabe Kidd's someone that New Japan wants to push, and Eddie Kingston's obviously in AEW. So one of those situations where they didn't want to, obviously Eddie Kingston was going to lose, but they probably didn't want to pin Gabe Kidd. So why pick a match when you're not going to have someone lose. I don't know, but it was a great match still. It was hard hitting, but great for what it was, so I'm not gonna complain about it. But afterwards, they kept brawling, they kept fighting out ringside. You know, they were brawling all around. You know, Gabe Kidd chasing Eddie Kingston around, and they got back to the ring where Gabe Kidd ended up taking out Eddie Kingston, ended up hitting a pile driver on him onto the titles. So Gabe Kidd got the upper hand. Not sure if they'll do a rematch in the future. Maybe, hey, maybe in AEW on TV they'll do a rematch. Maybe they'll do it at the next Strong show, US Strong show. Not really too sure, but I definitely love to see more of those two go at it. And it was just unfortunate that such a great match had to end in such a crappy finish. And speaking of a fight, we had the no DQ match between Jon Moxley and Shingo Takagi next. Man, oh man, what a fucking match this was. I'm getting excited just thinking about it all over again. This was a fucking fight, man. These two went out there and beat the holy shit out of each other. Moxley took 20 minutes to come out. Once he did, he finally came out through the crowd, you know, as he usually does. It just took him 20 minutes to come out. But I didn't mind because his Death Rider theme is just chef's kiss, if you ask me. I can listen to that all day. Turn that up as loud as you can. Absolutely love his New Japan theme. But yeah, man, they were breaking a bunch of things out right from the get-go. They got kendo sticks out and had a sword fight. Tables got introduced at one point. A chain got introduced that Moxley tried to use to choke out Shingo. These two were just going absolutely nuts at one another. And it was a great fight, man. They both got busted open at one point. It was a lot of fun. You know, Moxley ended up hitting a Death Rider followed by a curb stomp, which was a great near fall. Crowd always pops when Moxley obviously does a curb stomp for obvious reasons, but it was great seeing that. Moxley tried to put Shingo through a table, but Shingo able to counter it with the mist on Moxley, ended up hitting a Death Valley driver through the table instead. Moxley ended up shoving Shingo through a table on the outside. Just a whole bunch of just gnarly stuff, to be perfectly honest. And it was brutal, man. It was definitely a death match. I know it was a no DQ, but this is like a death match is what it was. And it was a lot of fun, man. You know, Moxley hit the cutter, you know, and then end up hitting another Death Rider. It was just great back and forth stuff between Moxley and Shingo, and it was an excellent match, and the match absolutely flew by. The crowd was popping huge, especially at the end when they were both kicking out at one. It was getting great, and of course Moxley at the end of it ended up hitting the Death Rider on top of a chair, not just a chair on the ground, but just a side-up chair, and hitting that on Shingo for the 1, 2, 3 and defeating Shingo Takagi. So yeah, man, that was excellent. It was one of those matches where literally when it was over, like everyone, like even the upper section where I was at, everyone stood up and was like giving it a standing ovation. It was that fucking good. So Shingo and Moxley, as much as I love the main event, this honestly was my match of the night. I thought Shingo and Moxley definitely the best match. The most fun match, I should say. I'm not sure if it was the best match, but it was definitely the match I had the most fun with. I'll say that. So absolutely incredible brawl between Shingo and Moxley. Definitely can't wait to watch that back again. Then Moxley gets on the mic and says the time's finally come. He has one name left, and that, of course, being Tetsuya Naito. And the match will be happening in Chicago in 3 months. So like I said, hopefully New Japan learned that they need to announce these big names and matches ahead of time. So they have 3 months to build this up now. And I'm not sure if it'll be for the IWGP World title. I'm not sure if that's what Moxley's after. I don't know if it's just Naito he wants or maybe the championship he's referring to. I think Moxley going for the title would be awesome. And him and Naito in general should be a great match. So I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, Moxley and Shingo, like I said, tore the house down. Absolutely phenomenal match. And like I said, honestly, probably my favorite match of the show. And then finally, we got the main event, which was Kazuchika Okada taking on Will Ospreay. And of course, which is Will Ospreay's final New Japan Pro Wrestling singles match. He'll be having his last match at the New Beginning in Osaka next month in the 5-on-5 steel cage match. But this is his final singles match in New Japan Pro Wrestling and his second finals match in New Japan Pro Wrestling in general. Yeah, him and Okada went out there and just had another instant classic that they always have. These two know each other so well like the back of their hand, and it definitely showed here. Any counter that these two had to one another, they absolutely had. These two knew what each other was going to do before they even did it. It was excellent. You know, it was counter after counter. It was, you know, avoiding each other after avoiding each other because they knew what the other person was going to do. It was just magic. Okada and Ospreay just had an instant classic, if you ask me. By far, Okada's best San Jose match. He's had some great matches. He's wrestled Buddy Matthews. He's wrestled Tanahashi last year. And this match with Ospreay definitely was his best match. And you know what? I will say it came full circle too, because the first New Japan show in San Jose, the first one, the showdown New Japan Showdown or whatever it was called in 2019, Ospreay and Okada teamed on that show. So it's kind of appropriate to see them face one another in Ospreay's, you know, final match, or singles match here. So I thought that was pretty appropriate and a cool thing to mention. But yeah, like I said, it was counter to counter. You know, Okada went for the Rainmaker, but Ospreay was able to counter it into the Stormbreaker, hit it. Okada kicked out, but then Okada did the Stormbreaker on Ospreay, which was insane. But then Okada would go for the Rainmaker, but Ospreay would counter into the Hidden Blade. It was just counter after counter. It was absolutely nuts. You know, Okada hit the drop kick, go for a second one, but Ospreay would catch him in midair for the power bomb. It was just excellent wrestling between both men, and the match flew by. It was almost 30 minutes. I think 28 something was the final time. But like, you know, with New Japan, they always announce, you know, oh, 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed, 15 minutes passed. Like literally each time the next mark got announced, I was like, damn, it's been 15 minutes already. Damn, it's been 20 minutes already. Like the match just flew right by, incredible pacing, and Okada, like I said, and Ospreay just put on another instant classic like they've always had. Now, is it, you know, their absolute best match they've ever had? No. But, you know, this is like, what, their 10th match they've had? This is, you know, I'd say easily the top 5, you know, of their match. This is definitely one of their best ones up there, if you ask me. But, yeah, instant classic. Looked like, you know, Ospreay was potentially closing on the win on Okada. But Okada ended up, you know, countering Ospreay when Ospreay went for the Rainmaker. Okada just hit a few clotheslines, followed by the landslide, and one final Rainmaker for the 1, 2, 3. And Okada defeats Will Ospreay. Like I said, phenomenal match. Now, this might have been the best match of the night, to be perfectly honest. But like I said, personally, you know, the match I most enjoyed was the Shingo Moxley match. But this match definitely is right up there with it. But like, you know, I'd say it's like right there with me in terms of, you know, matches. So this was excellent. This was a phenomenal way to close the show. Just amazing match. And then, of course, you know, obviously afterwards, Okada and Ospreay both embrace each other. You know, Okada brought Ospreay into Japan into chaos, so obviously they have a lot of history. And even Okada was getting emotional. He was crying. He was getting very emotional for Ospreay. So it was definitely a very cool moment to see both of them have that. And then, you know, before anything really happened, fucking Bullet Club War Dogs come out. They all attack Ospreay and Okada. They take Okada out. They work on Ospreay, trying to take him out. But Ospreay is saved by TJP, Jeff Cobb, and Eddie Kingston. They help come out and clean out the house against Bullet Club War Dogs. Obviously, you know, it's going to be that 5-on-5 steel cage match. I mean, Eddie Kingston's not involved, but, you know, TJP and Jeff Cobb, Will Ospreay, they're both obviously involved in United Empire, so they'll be involved in that match. So it made sense for, you know, get that last final heat going to that steel cage match. But they fight him off, and then Ospreay's able to give a speech. You know, he pretty much gives a speech saying thank you, thanks Okada, and you know, he pretty much thanks everybody for supporting him in this chapter in his life, and he hopes everyone sticks around for his next one. So it was very short, but you know, I thought effective speech by Ospreay. I've always thought Ospreay is an incredible worker. You know, I may have never been his biggest fan, but I've always been a big fan of his work, and I thought, you know, the promo he was able to cut here, you can definitely tell he was very emotional, and even when he came out, you can tell he was very excited and very energetic, and it was very, you know, knew this was the final time he was going to perform for a New Japan crowd, maybe in the U.S. Well, at least a U.S.-based New Japan show. He might do the AEW collaborated shows, but that was me his last time, and you can definitely, you felt his energy, you felt his emotion the entire time. So I thought it was a great send-off for Ospreay. I thought it was an emotional promo, and definitely was a great way to send up the crowd to end the overall show. So Ospreay sends everyone home. That ends the show itself. Overall, great show, man. It almost went 4 hours. The show almost ended at like 11 o'clock Pacific time, which the show started at 7, so almost a 4-hour show for this. And I thought it was great. You know, New Japan always hits out of the park, I feel like, with these San Jose shows. I feel like each one has progressively gotten better. You know, I feel like each time I've gone to one of them, I end up leaving feel like, oh man, that was better than the last one. And honestly, I feel like that was kind of the case here. I feel like this show potentially was better than last year's show. I thought the show was very fun. Not a bad match in sight. I thought every match was at least good. We had some great matches. I feel like the last 3 matches really helped the show, honestly. You know, even though Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd had that terrible finish, the just hard-hitting fest they had was phenomenal. Then, of course, you know, the last 2 matches with Moxley, Shingo, and Ospreay and Okada, those 2 matches in themselves were worthy of watching this show. So definitely was a great show. New Japan is always a fun time, and I'm always glad to attend it. Like I said, I just wish New Japan would have better marketing, man. They think the brand sells itself, but you gotta have names here. You know, the way things work in the West don't work the same over there in Japan and everything. So I just wish they would realize that and start doing things differently. Like I said, looks like they have with already announcing matches for the Chicago show. So maybe they are finally changing that strategy, but we'll see where the future lies. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was a great time, great show. Very happy I ended up going. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, please feel free to like below. And of course, until next time, I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys for watching the video.